So ladies and gentlemen, before we start the keynote session, we have a lucky draw that is being conducted by Prodimark, and there are some exciting prizes to be won, like an Amazon Echo and Kindles. So let us see who the winner is. I'm going to first of all call upon Mr. Bhavin Bhansali, founder and CEO of Prodimark Project Solutions, to come up on the stage. And I'm also going to request Mr. Vinayak from DSCI to accompany him and announce the winners. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome these gentlemen with a round of applause.
So it's Mr. Satyanarayan, Associate Vice President in NPCI, Information Security. Satyanarayan, Associate Vice President NPCI. So he's here. Okay. So what you'll do?
It's all right.
Okay.
A round of applause for him, please. Congratulations to him. Though he's not here, we'll send across his gift to him.
The next is Vikas Yadav, VP Information Security and Max Life. Okay. Please give a round of applause for him as well. Okay, so these are the two winners. They will get their gifts, and I think there is something for tomorrow.
Yeah, so at our counter, Prodimark's counter, you can drop your cards in the fishbowl that we have. We have some more prizes tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Vinayak. Thank you, Bhavin, for joining us. And now it is time for us to start the keynote session. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I'd like to call upon Mr. Steve Ledzian, Vice President, CTO, APAC for FireEye, and I'll invite him to make his presentation. Request all of you to please welcome him with a round of applause.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So I'd like to talk to you about the importance of APT attribution. My name's Steve Ledzian. I'm from a company called FireEye. FireEye helps companies to protect themselves against cyber attack. And they also help the victims of cyber attack as well recover from those attacks. We've got a number of learnings, and I'd like to share some of those with you in this presentation. And we'll go through quite quickly. The first, just to get everyone on the same page, I want to make sure everyone knows what an indictment is. In the US justice system, it's a formal accusation or charge in a serious crime. And we'll see how those apply in this case. Data security as it relates to attribution is quite important, and I think sometimes organizations will say, you know, I really don't care who it is that's attacking me, I just want to get them out. And I want to dispel some of those myths and explain to you why attribution is so important. And for that, we'll take a little bit of a history lesson, and it starts quite a bit back in 2012 when the New York Times released an article that was upsetting to China. That was in October, and it was around the premiere. And 4 months later, in January of 2013, the New York Times released a subsequent article saying that the last 4 months, essentially corresponding to when they released the first article, they had been hacked by Chinese state-sponsored attackers. And it wasn't just the New York Times. It was a number of journalists across a number of media outlets that were reporting on issues that might be sensitive to China. You can imagine that governments might want to know when there's news that it may impact them globally or change influence, and they may want to know about that ahead of time. In February of 2013, Mandiant, which is FireEye's team, which responds to cyber attacks, released a seminal paper in cybersecurity called the APT1 report. It documented 141 different organizations, private sector organizations, that were hacked by a group, a cyber attack group we call APT1, which identifies with the People's Liberation Army Unit 61398. Those organizations that were hacked, again, were not government organizations. This was not government on government hacking. This was government on private industry hacking, taking intellectual property out of those corporations. It's quite a bit different. That was in February of 2013. On the same month, the New York Times followed the APT1 report and released a story getting much wider distribution. And that started to raise the awareness that this type of hacking was going on. In May 2014, there was the first criminal indictment for foreign state-sponsored hacking. This was quite important. It was about 4 years ago now, but a number of indictments have followed this one. This was the very first, and it was 5 military officers. Now, it's a little bit strange to levy a criminal charge against a foreign state's military, because you can't exactly arrest them and bring them to justice, right? This is another government. What the indictment does isn't necessarily to arrest them, but it's to raise the awareness of the problem and raise the awareness of data theft. Following that, in June 2015, that awareness was raised, and there were calls within the government to address this and to put rules in place to address cybersecurity.
We believe very strongly that the United States and China should be working together to develop and implement a shared understanding of appropriate state behavior in cyberspace.
Appropriate state behavior in cyberspace. So governments hacking, of course governments will always hack other governments, but again, we're not talking about governments hacking governments, we're talking about governments hacking private institutions to steal their data. September 2015, there was a landmark meeting between the Chinese premier and the US president, and they came to an agreement in principle that governments would not engage in cyber espionage for commercial gain against each other. And so that came out of that New York Times story, the APT1 report, the call for publicity. None of that would have happened had there not been attribution. In another cybersecurity event, the interference in the US election in 2016, the FireEye CEO, his name is Kevin Mandia, was called to testify to Congress in that interference, which was also had a cyber and data aspect to it. At the beginning of that hearing, one of the senators thanked Kevin for his work on the APT1 report and for the effect that it generated globally.
Senator Feinstein.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And Kevin Mandy, it's good to see you again. I want you to know how much your China report was appreciated, and you spoke before this committee, and I think everybody very much appreciated it, and I think it had some good results. So thank you very much.
And the good results were the leaders of two countries coming together and saying, we will not steal each other's data for commercial gain. And subsequent to that, there was a significant drop-off in those hacking cases and in those specific types of data breaches. Following that, there's been many examples of indictments. The first one was 2014, but there has just been a string of indictments since then. In 2013, a dam, critical infrastructure, was hacked. And in fact, the hackers had the remote capability to open that dam. What stopped them, perhaps, was that the dam was in a maintenance mode, preventing them to do that before it was discovered. 3 years later, there's an indictment against that hacking, and 7 Iranian nationals indicted as a result of that specific incident. 2014, maybe you remember, Yahoo, 500 million accounts, and then later up to 1 billion accounts. Maybe the largest data loss ever. 3 years later, 4 Russian FSB officers indicted for that breach and for that data theft. July 2016, the World Anti-Doping Agency, cyber attack, again, Russian state actors. 2 years later, 7 Russian GRU officers indicted as well. So you can see the time between the crime and the time between the indictment is often measured in years. It is not easy work, but it's critically important to do. July 2017, HBO hacked. If you remember, if any of you are Game of Thrones fans, some of their episodes were stolen as well. roughly 1.5 terabytes of data stolen out of that private institution. 4 months later, this time a little bit quicker, one Iranian indicted. 2011, cyber espionage on multiple targets. 6 years later, 3 Chinese nationals indicted. September 2015, we get back to the Russian US election interference. 2 years later, 13 Russian nationals indicted. And then July 2018, 12 Russian intelligence officers indicted. So you can see these are linked again to state-sponsored attacks. March 2018, this is where it's different. Now I said the indictments are one thing. You can't arrest, indictments just raise awareness, but there's not necessarily, other than perception, a lot of pain for the attacker around an indictment. But with indictments, you can go one step further, and that is sanctions. Sanctions here, March 2018, we now have deterrence. Sanctions against Russia for the US election interference. And again, a second round in June 2018 of sanctions. When we talk about data loss, 2013, 31 terabytes of intellectual property stolen from over 300 universities around the globe. 5 years later, 9 Iranian nationals indicted for that as well. November 2014, the attacks on Sony Pictures. If you remember, Sony Pictures was making a film called The Interview about North Korea. And as a result of that, North Korea retaliated with a cyber attack, wiping thousands of computers and servers across that company. February of 2016, Bangladesh bank heist. $81 million stolen out of that bank, and the bank's central governor resigning. And in May 2017, the WannaCry ransomware. All 3 of these were attributed to the DPRK 4 years later, in June 2018, in a criminal complaint. Sony Pictures, Bangladesh Bank, and WannaCry. January 2013, some of you might remember Carbonac, $1 billion stolen from banks. And sometimes it's not necessarily data that's being stolen, sometimes it's actual currency. August 2018, 5 years later, 3, we call this group Fin7, is the name of the attack group. They're a financially motivated threat actor, indicted as well. October 2014, maybe you remember the JP Morgan Chase breach. 83 million people impacted by that breach, their personal data affected. 4 years later, another deterrence, this time not sanctions, but this time extradition. A Russian national extradited out of Georgia into the United States to face justice. So do indictments matter? Yes, it matters understanding who is attacking you. This is, again, our CEO of FireEye, Kevin Mandia. He's testifying at yet another congressional hearing, and he's talking about these indictments.
You have to have a doctrine that imposes risk repercussion. The problem is it's also hard to write a red line in cyberspace. Demarcation, what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, is still blurry. What I have seen in the last few years, and I'm indirectly answering the question, is we're seeing indictment. We are getting attribution. We are making indictment. A lot of people ask, does that matter? The answer is yes. We have a sovereign nation and a Department of Justice pointing the finger at nation states and individuals in those nations.
It may have been a little hard to hear, but he's saying, you know, as part of data protection, you have to have risks and repercussions to the attackers. Without that, the attacks will just continue. You can't play a purely defensive game. All of that is enabled only once you have attribution. One final comment, attribution is a prerequisite to proportional response.
But we can't win if all we do is focus on defense, defense. And that's why we need to impose risks and consequences to those who do it, which means we have to get attribution right, support the technical assets, human assets, the international cooperation, so that we know who is doing the attacks, so we can at least weigh proportional response.
So, again, without understanding who is attacking you, there is no proportional response, there are no risks or repercussions. So actually it is important. It's not just a matter of we need to get the threat actors out of our network, it's also understanding who they are. For that, you need a combination of experts, intelligence experts, you need an intelligence repository of threat actors, you need expertise, and you need tooling and instrumentation across your network. Many of those things are things that FireEye can all help you with. So I hope this was interesting to you. It's a little bit probably of a different topic than what you've seen today, but I hope very interesting to you. So thank you so much for your time.
Mr. Erez Yalon, Head of Security Research at Checkmarx. I'm going to invite Mr. Erez Yalon on the stage now to make his presentation. Please welcome him.
I can't see you, but I know you're there. So, it's late after a first very busy day for everyone, so thanks for coming. I'll try to make it quick and light. So let's start. I want you to consider software exposure. Software exposure is what leaves our applications, software, vulnerable. So, okay. My name is Erez. I'm the head of security research in Checkmarx. I was always fascinated by information security, more focused on application security. I'm a strong believer in spreading security awareness, and I'm also a software developer, but I usually put it in the end because I break better than I build. How many of you know Checkmarx? Not enough. That's an excellent reason to go to booth 25 after this talk. Checkmarx is a software exposure platform for the enterprise. We have over 1,400 organizations that rely on us to measure and manage their software risks. And the reason I'm here is because I see a lot of mistakes. All the time, all day long, our customers and others, we see a lot of problems, a lot of mistakes, a lot of issues. And this is something I would like to address from my experience today, maybe organized in a bit of a different way that you're used to. So what keeps changing in our software? The developers keep changing all the time. New ones come, older leave, people stop working, being fired, resign, changing all the time. Programming languages. In Checkmarx, we support more than 20 different languages. The last one we added is not even here yet, it's Kotlin. Although languages change all the time and we have new languages, some of them are harder to make mistakes in, but no language is really secure. You can always find a way, as we say, to shoot yourself in the foot if you really try to. So the same issues are still there. We see SQL injections that are there for since ever I remember myself, XSS, etc. Technologies. The pace of change is really high. What used to be only monolithic applications in the past, now moving to microservices, and microservices are moving to the cloud as functions as a service, lambdas. It makes things easier, sometimes faster, easier to maintain, but it also adds the connection between microservices, which is API that also can be attacked. And this gives us more of an attack surface. And the use of software is increasing all the time. It's really everywhere and everything is software, everything. From our usual things we know, like software and applications, smart cars. We have Bluetooth in everything these days. Just yesterday, I read a terrifying thing about an oven that GE made that you can turn on when you're out of the house. Terrifying. Parents put pacifiers with Bluetooth in the mouth of their babies. So really, software is everywhere. Again, we rely on it completely. None of us want to stay without a car when the software does not work. and we're not enlarging the attack surfaces all the time. What does not change in software? Well, I kind of changed these pictures because when I thought about this presentation, it was to others. I had to change it yesterday to the two latest ones. I actually didn't check the news today. Maybe it's already old news. I don't know. Maybe someone can tell me afterwards. But this keeps happening. It does not change. We still see the same vulnerabilities, the same issues, the same hacks. We saw amazing examples here from Steve just a second ago. Things do not change. Actually, sometimes it looks like things getting worse. Why? Why is that? Why we keep on learning, we keep knowing more things, we keep having more secure frameworks, we have excellent dashboards for everything. Why things still happen that way? So I try to simplify it really into three words: education, code, and trust. It's not really separated. Everything affects everything. So it really overlaps. But let me walk you through, and I hope you understand my reasoning for that. So education. We all know the shift left buzzword, right? Everyone is not familiar with shift left. Basically, it means that as far in the beginning as you go in the development of a software, it will be easier, hence cheaper and safer to fix. There is actually a bit more to the left than being a developer, and that's being a student in the academia. Academia today does not teach students security, especially not application security. I say it in a very broad way. Maybe in India it's different, I don't know. Well, actually there's a way to check if it's different, if I'll be able to see you. How many people here, please raise your hands, been to the university and had a degree in computer science? I need more for the, okay, excellent. How many among you ever got a lower grade in homework, in some sort of paper you gave, some sort of project, because your software was not secure enough? Okay, so congratulations, you're the same like all the other places in the world. That's 0, by the way, if no one noticed. Universities does not teach security, not in the right way anyway. And what happens is that we cannot expect developers to just know secure development. Even more than that, we cannot expect developers to understand the importance of secure development. More often than usual, we see developers that do not even understand the implications of what they're doing. So we need to teach developers to think secure. Think secure is when you get a task, get me some piece of data from the database. It should be considered, get me some data from the database, but only if I'm authorized. This is how we need to build the secure thought. And also we have the issue of actually writing secure code. We need to teach developers to write secure code and understand that. Building more frameworks and macros around what they write is not enough. And also, if you teach only for compliance, this is what you'll get. You'll get compliance. You will not get security in any way. So let's go to the next challenge. Next challenge is actually code. Code itself. This is obviously a big issue when you write code. There was a time where just reviewing the code was enough. Then we added some linters and some checkers. But now the code today is very complex, sometimes huge. I just heard lately that the average smart car has between 10 and 20 million lines of code. This is not something you review manually, obviously. You need to add it to your system, into your process, and it's very, very important. You have all the combinations of SASS, DAST, AISS. If you're not familiar with them, again, please go to our booth. They'll be happy to explain. And you need to make sure that your tools are robust. They can handle the complexity and the size of your code. The tools must be smart. It's not just like a big Control F, find vulnerability. It's not a regex. You don't find specific nodes. You need to find very deep flow in your code to understand the attack vectors and to find them. You need to be able to be presented with the findings. You need to be suggested remediation. All of these things are not something that we can expect our developers to know by themselves. And sometimes our security people in the company are not enough. So if your tools are able to show that, that's also important. Also, there is no more, in the monolithic time, there used to be a notion that an out-of-the-box product would be enough, but these days it's not. You have no one solution that fits all, and you need to fit every solution, be it SAST or IAST or anything else, to your code base and architecture. So it's very important that the tools are extremely customizable, easily customizable. Otherwise, they'll just lie on the shelf. No one will use them. And the last challenge is trust. How many of you trust these guys? Not a lot, okay. How many of you will let them use your code base, access your code base and change it? No one, good. If any of you guys are using Node.js, NPM in your development cycle, you already trust these guys, probably. We'll come back to them in a second. So let's talk about open source. Depending on open source as third-party modules is no longer an option. We used to be taught that we need to write our own code, but it's not right anymore. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Everything is somehow out there, and it's a business necessity these days. So trusting the open source means that you trust the third party to not be malicious. This is something that happened a couple of weeks ago, where someone just took over a third-party package and changed it maliciously. After it was downloaded 8 million times, someone noticed and stopped it. You also need to be sure that this third party cares about security, that they actually check the security packages that they are dependent upon, and that they know what they're doing. So specifically, these guys are John David Dalton and Matthias Banyans. They're maintaining Lodash. It's an NPM package with 80,000 directly dependent packages, which means that a little bit more than 40% of people who are using Node.js somehow rely on their package. So think what happens if these two guys go rogue one night. So this trust is problematic. You need to be able to understand which versions of these third-party modules you have. You need to be sure that you can scan them. If you cannot scan them, you need to at least be sure that the versions do not change without you knowing, and into a version that is supposed to actually be changed and not someone changing it maliciously. Basically, that's it. Again, it's the combination of education, code, and trust that will keep your software unexposed. All these things are things we do at Checkmarx with a platform for education, scanning code, and checking open source modules. And that's it. Thank you.
we now move on to the next address by Dr. Debabrata Nayak, Chief Security Officer at Huawei Telecommunications India Private Limited. And I request Dr. Nayak to now join us on the stage. Please welcome him, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon to everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you. I just, before starting my presentation, want to say 3 words. One is called A, B, and C. Whenever you travel any part of the world today, everybody is talking. A means advanced technology, that is your IoT. B means it is talking about broadband, that is your mobile broadband. Nowhere you will find out mobile broadband is not talking. And C, when you go, you find out it is talking about cloud computing. So this is the 3 buzzwords going on in all over the world. But in India, what we talk when we wake up, A means we start astrology. Means we wake up and see the newspaper, but thanks to DSCI, they have not given chance to you guys. They have started the session at morning 6:30. So that is the breakfast session. You guys might have missed the newspaper, so you have not seen the astrology part. And second thing, B means when you come here, you think about Bollywood. That is our next priority. And the third thing what we think about, C means we talk about cricket. But again, thanks to DSCI, our cricket match, India-Australia match is starting tomorrow. So not today. So with this, let me start with my presentation. Let's see what my friends have already told and why actually I have started this anecdote. The reason behind is that Ajay, I am coming here to fear you, and you will go back and think that, oh my God, today I am not going to sleep properly. It's a technology world. And the technology world that depends on the technologist need to give the solution, what exactly that has to be delivered. So, what you can find out this slide. We did an extensive analysis of this slide. You will find out majority of the players, those who are operating, there is a place called Chengdu. They have the place, or they have operating with all their bases there. So what does this means? That means it is a global supply chain. You take a particular box in your system and you split the box into different parts. You will find out your hardware is manufactured in one country, your middleware is manufactured in one country, your software is coming from another country, and it has been assembled in one country, and it has been tested in another country. So it is not in one country. It is basically coming with a global supply chain management system that we need to understand in a digital world. In a digital world, it does not work like a physical world, where you can draw a hard boundary and segregate all those things. So this is what actually the message I want to give from this slide. So we need to understand in a digital world, everybody is connected and everybody is doing a bit and piece everywhere in a particular digital society. So this is what our founder has told, that cyber security implications, if there is any, I'm repeating, cyber security implication, if there is any, then there will be no commercial weightage will be given. So we create any kind of evaluation. We found out that the cyber security implication aspects need to be evaluated if there is a commercial implications over it. So that needs to be draw a boundary. So where actually the cyber security part need to be taken care, and that has to be taken care with utmost importance. And the commercial aspect has to be taken care in the next step. So this is what actually our founder has given a clear message. That shows what is the message here I am going to give to all of you, is that the top management has a commitment. The top management has a commitment that we need to have to do the cyber security in a very pragmatic way. So what exactly we are doing? We have been a company, we have been a very young company, a 22 years old company. We have been growing in 12% every year, and we are reaching now $90 billion in very recently. and we are spending 12% of our R&D, whatever the revenue we get, and 10 to 12%. So if we are growing this, we have always been side on. We have never talked in the external forums what exactly we are doing in terms of cyber security. So we devised a 9 principle. Based on this 9 principle, what exactly we are finding out, these are that the openness, transparency, if there is any backdoor present in the system, how actually we'll find out all the system. Let us discuss this. How actually, what is the global solution for this? Who is providing the global solution? What extent the global solution is existing? Is this the question we have asked in 100 question, one of the white paper we have released in the global forum? And this is recently released in the Seoul in the global forum, and we want to find out what extent the cyber security implication need to be taken care. So that does not mean that we have to stop and educating to our employees. One of my next speaker who has told that code, he has told how actually you have to educate your employees. Your code is not the simple code that you are going to use it. It's a very, very complicated code. It's a complex code. It's a million lines of code. You have to do a lot of threat modeling analysis. You have to understand the design aspect of this code. Nowadays, there is a 2 aspect we are considering. One is called as security by design, privacy by design. If you are not putting these 2 aspects in your code, you do not have to understand how actually the complexity of the code lies and how you want to operate with this code mechanism. So what exactly we have done, we have all these processes present. So each and every processes we have evaluated. So this slide will be circulated to DSCI, and we are happy to distribute anybody. Anybody wants to take this slide and have any question, we are happy to distribute it. So each and every processes here you are finding out, we have embedded cyber security on it. So this gives the idea that how actually the cyber security has to be created in the DNA. How actually I will have to create the cyber security during my critical assets. I'll just give you a very real life example. What is actually happening, you know, I was driving my car from Gurgaon highway, and my small kid, 3 years, he was sitting in the back of this car, and suddenly I applied the brake and she fell down. Then my wife told me, what happened? There is no traffic in front of you. Why you apply so much of brake? And that kid has fallen down. Then I was thinking, if there will be a APT attack will happen, if I am in the aeroplane, how can I survive the whole world? So then, you know what my wife told? You first think about me and your son. Later you will think about the whole world. So this is the lesson that I have learned. So that means what exactly I have to find out? I have to find out my critical assets. What are my critical assets present in my particular, what actually I am offering? So that need to be understood. The moment you will understand the critical assets, then what extent you have to provide security, that has to be, then you have to fragment it, and then based on this, you have to provide the required amount of control. You cannot apply control anywhere. So let's say access control system. You have to control the main access control system. You have to control the AD-based access control system. You want to provide the role-based access control system. You have to understand what exactly the access control mechanism that we need to provide in the system. Each and every process you need to understand. Then also you have to implicate what extent the security need to be provided. So this is a little bit complicated slide. I just want to give the key message. Each and every processes we have thoroughly evaluated. I will give a very Indian context in the example. For example, when Indian government brought the May 2011 amendment, the government of India, Department of Telecom says that all the TSP, the telecom service provider, my friends are here, if the government officers are here, we are congratulate them because they brought this law that everybody must sign this. Can you imagine what is the implication of those laws? it says if there will be a breach will happen, there will be a 50 crore penalty. We went and signed each and every agreement of those kind of cyber security agreements. So that means we evaluated the requirements which is coming from the external sites. And then you have to put the requirements in your particular system, particular processes. Then you have to output it. But what is our processes and our system is? I am manufacturing different kind of security boxes. So the government of India says that you have to comply to the 3GPP standards. Then I have to find out what are the various kinds of 3GPP standards that has to be implicated and that has to be implemented in my box. So 3GPP, those who are working in 3GPP, they will know 3GPP SA3, they defines the 4G and 5G security aspects. The moment you will find out those aspects, then you have to find out how your boxes will comply to those kind of security law and regulations. So that gives the idea how you capture the market requirements and then put those market requirements into your processes, into your products, and that will cater to your particular operator or your carriers. So this is one of the slides that we have shown. If you see here, India is taken as one of the key country where actually we have cyber security officers, and we definitely depends on what extent the cyber security aspects has to be taken care, and that has to be need to be taken care. So one of my previous speaker has rightly told that code is the main thing that when actually we design the particular system. That depends on actually the complexity of the system that we design. So there is a different kind of threat modeling analysis method is used. One is called as Microsoft Stride methodology. The other one is called as TVRA methodology that is provided by AISS. So there will be a code methodology will be used, and based on this, that how actually we can use those kind of methodology to find out how you will make it secure. So we go by different kind of processes. Based on this, you can find out our products have been tested in common criteria. Our products have been tested in internal lab. Our products have been tested in various kinds of countries. So that means we have got multiple kind of testing mechanism in our products. So that's why we never shy away giving these products to see what extent the security vulnerability is there. Because it has been tested in multiple areas, and we have found out what extent our product is robust and how actually the product provides the quality of security, not the quality of service. Quality of service is our foundation. On top of that, we build the quality of security. So we work with a lot of operators globally, and also based on this also we did with the supply chain mechanism, how actually we can find out what way actually your delivery processes works. This is one slide that I want to give a little bit stress that some of my friend has already told there is a WannaCry attack, there is a various kinds of attack. So we works in a environment is called as PSOT. PSOT is called as Product Security Incident Response Team. We work for 24/7 for all our products to find out what extent the security aspect need to be taken care, whether it's a NotPetya attack, WannaCry attack. So we engage those based on CBSS scoring mechanism, find out the threats, and then based on this, we find out how actually we'll take care of these things. Also, our supply chain management system is ISO certified, and our procurement, yes, of course, as I told, there are a lot of global players are involved in our process. We also buy a lot of chips from the global players. We have a cyber security agreements on them. We say, hey, look, you are providing the high-end security chips. If there is a things, then we have to see what extent actually those kind of the supply chain risk management mitigation that need to be taken care when actually we work together. So based on this, we develop the traceability mechanism, because nowadays it is very important you have to understand what extent your product is moving from one point to another point, it's going to various customs, it's going to various warehouse. You have to build the traceability mechanism and find out that your product has not been tampered anywhere. And based on this, that will give the idea how actually we'll find. This is my last slide. I just want to say, whatever beautiful product you make, whatever way you will find out, human being is the most important and critical thing that operates. So that's why even today at 6 o'clock you will find out that we are finding the hall is very much full. So human being is the critical element. We give a lot of training to them, and we have to make them understand the cyber security cannot be taken as it is our bread and butter. So they must understand the security implications if we have to survive in this world. So each and every processes that we build, human beings should be taken the cyber security. And I believe you, me, and all the human persons are the key elements in the cyber security development process. So that gives, so my last slide is the threat will never sleep, the bad guys, they will never sleep, they will always coordinated, they will attack each other. So let us not take a blame game, let us work together and work each other and find out a coordinated mechanism and then find out a solution that in a digital world, everybody can be coordinated and everybody can be shared and everything can be worked in a very proper coordinated manner. Thank you. Thank you for your patient listening. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now have our final keynote by the government of Telangana. We have Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, Secretary Information Technology from the government of Telangana, joining us on video conferencing. I'm going to request the audiences at the back to kindly come forward. We have a lot of vacancies in the front, so you may feel free to come forward. Thank you. And joining us now, Mr. Jayesh Ranjan.
I was very keen to address this audience, interact with this audience. So first of all, thank you very much, DSCI, for creating this small window for me. I won't take a very long time, maybe 7 to 10 minutes. And basically what I wanted to do was to share a state security. We all, cybersecurity is today on the mainstream national agenda. The MeitY, other national agencies are very actively working on this particular topic. They have introduced a large number of programs. But how do states typically look at cybersecurity? And in the next 5 to 7 minutes, this is what I'd like to share with you. So Telangana was one of the very first states to create its own cybersecurity policy. In fact, I'm showing this book to you on the screen. And we have set up a booth also as a part of this seminar. And I'm sure if you visit the booth, you can pick up copies or you can read this online. So that itself shows that our intent to tackle the issues of cybersecurity in a very comprehensive and a very meticulous manner was there right at the very beginning. Now, if you go through this policy, now typically there are hundreds and hundreds of policies, and very few of them are actually actioned on the ground. So I'm very happy to share with you that most of the elements that we have announced in the policy have actually rolled out, and the initial results that we have got are very, very encouraging. So a couple of salient features of this policy, which I would like to kind of draw your attention to. One is that there are some hard components in the policy. For instance, we have committed that we will set up our own Security Operations Center or SOC. And I'm happy to share with you that it is up and running for almost close to a year now. And we have been very successful. In fact, lots of this very major attacks which happened elsewhere in the country, we were able to thwart that. The incidence monitoring tools that we have deployed in our SOC are absolutely latest. And that way, we have seen the benefit of investing in creating our SOC. We are in the process of setting up another very important piece of the same cybersecurity related infrastructure, which is a critical information infrastructure monitoring and control systems, which is also a work in progress. And in a short time, we should be ready with that. We are also doing lots of cloud enablement. As you know, the state data centers earlier used to be in physical storage space and servers and in large buildings. But we are taking steps to convert everything on a cloud-enabled platform, which we are calling T-Cloud. And that also is in a work in progress, but it is going to happen very, very shortly. So this is a very important piece of infrastructure which we are trying to provide in a very robust manner. Besides that, we are also encouraging lots of awareness building programs. We are also conducting lots of capacity building programs. In fact, if you read the policy document, there is a commitment of ours that we will create an army of cyber warriors or cyber security warriors, so to say. So we have an institution in our state, which is called the Telangana Academy for Skills and Knowledge, or TASK. TASK works with all the engineering colleges in the state and offers courses, etc., which are not conventionally covered in their syllabus. So some of the latest technologies, tools, applications, platforms, which the technology developers have come out with and which are actually getting deployed on live projects by the companies, by IT companies, services companies. These are taught in our colleges as add-on modules. So the students continue to read what they are required in their syllabus, but they also do these modules in their evening hours or in the long weekends, holidays, etc. That more than, I mean, 2 modules in cybersecurity have been introduced by TASK, and more than 14,000 students have received training on those modules. And eventually, when these 14,000 of them get employment in various companies in our state, they will have that additional knowledge and understanding of cybersecurity and the latest tools, etc., which is available. Besides this professional capacity building enhancement programs, we are also partnering with CDAC. As many of you would be aware, CDAC is a national institution located in multiple cities in the country. The CDAC center in Hyderabad has been mandated to focus on cybersecurity, and they have come up with a large number of awareness building programs where it is, capacity building programs. These are short courses which lead into a certification, which are offered to, let us say, even a common housewife, for instance, and to other interested people, so to say. So that program is rolling out also quite successfully in our state. As we all understand, and as there's a very strong common consensus on this, that the responsibility to be vigilant and careful and thwart cyber attacks, etc., rests on each and every member of the society, and therefore there's a responsibility on the government to create large-scale awareness about the threats and the simple precautions, the simple cyber etiquette which everyone needs to follow. So we have done sporadic awareness programs in the past, but we want to culminate and consolidate all of that into a 1-month-long cyber security awareness month. And earlier we had planned to do it in November, but as I said, as I mentioned a while ago, our assembly elections are actually happening day after tomorrow. And the whole of November was covered under this code of conduct, etc. So we could not run that program. But at the earliest opportune time, there'll be a month-long dedicated programs to create awareness on cybersecurity, etc., etc. And this kind of a focus is something which will be of tremendous value to everyone, I mean, all the stakeholders, so to say. Our policy also encourages, on behalf of the state government, private companies who are into development of products or who want to do R&D to do so in our state, in the city of Hyderabad, in which case we give them lots of incentives. There are programs to give them rental subsidies and power tariff subsidies and stuff like that. So the idea is that if you are focusing on a cybersecurity related program, a product development or a R&D work, then the cost of operations can be substantially lowered because of the incentives that the government of Telangana provides to you. We are also very, very welcoming of startups to do their own entrepreneurial activities focused on cybersecurity in this state. As many of you would be aware, Hyderabad hosts the largest tech incubator of the country, which is called T-Hub. And if you go to T-Hub today, you will find many startups which are related to cybersecurity operating there. And to bring all these kind of efforts together and provide some kind of an overarching guidance and support, we are setting up a center of excellence. And this is something which I feel very proud to share with all of you. This will be a center of excellence jointly with the DSCI, the Data Security Council of India, and the government of Telangana. The center of excellence will start operational maybe in a month's time or and a half. We have identified the director and he will be joining in about a fortnight. The physical space has been identified. So the COE will in a way be the anchor where all these disparate activities, all related to cybersecurity, will kind of culminate. I'm also very happy to share with you that we have also tried to forge partnerships with some of the hotspots where some of the most current and relevant cybersecurity work is happening across the globe. So I feel very proud to let this be known to all of you. As some of you would be aware, Hague in the Netherlands is a very important cluster on cybersecurity. It is called the Hague Security Delta. And Hague Security Delta representatives, actually, they went around the country and just to identify a appropriate partner or a suitable partner who will be able to replicate some of their best practices and who will be able to give some more inputs and business opportunities in India. So Hyderabad is the chosen partner for Hague Security Delta. And on the lines of the Hague Security Delta, we have set up our own Hyderabad Security Cluster. So Hague's only international partnership in India is happening today in Hyderabad. And we have already rolled out a number of programs. Some of our mid-scale companies based in Hyderabad have found business opportunities by partnering with companies in The Hague. We have had students exchange programs, we have had faculty exchange programs, training programs, and so on and so forth. So a lot is happening in this Hyderabad-Hague partnership. We have also made some initial discussions with Israeli representatives, including a consortium of companies which is pivoted by a very senior professor from the Tel Aviv University. But that is still a work in progress. We are not in a position to announce that partnership right now, but it is at a very advanced state. And hopefully, in a matter of maybe 3 to 4 months, we will be able to firm up that Israeli partnership also. The point which I'm trying to mention to you is that all the initiatives that we are taking at the state level, be it creating this critical infrastructure, be it doing this capacity building programs, be it awareness generation programs, be it encouraging startups, all that is happening in a partnership model. I mean, the state government can do only this much, and thereafter it relies on the private industry, be it large companies, be it specialized cybersecurity firms, be it mid-scale companies, to partner with us. And again, I'm very happy to let you know that at this point in time, we are actually working very, very closely with at least 7 to 8 companies in some of these activities. And through this conference, I would like to again appeal to all the company representatives who are present in the audience, who are listening to me. If you have a product or a service which you think is of relevance to the government, please share that with us. If you visit our booth, you'll find our representatives who can interact with you. And most importantly, if you are very keen to do some serious business, we would actually urge upon you to incorporate your office or at least a small team in Hyderabad so that you get that homegrown advantage that we provide to people in our procurement policies. So these are some of the thoughts which I wanted to share with you. And I do hope that we will remain connected, and the cybersecurity initiatives and efforts that we are putting through our government, which will be further consolidated and strengthened in the form of the COE, the Center of Excellence that we are setting up together along with the DSCI. It will receive lots of support and collaboration with all of you. So I would like to stop now. And Ramagaru, please let me know if you want to interact, or shall we stop at this?
I know you're extremely tied up with the elections, but thanks for joining us. Maybe 1 or 2 questions if anybody has for Telangana government. Yes? So, Mr. Debu from Huawei, he has a question.
Sir, what is your model for public-private partnership, that is for Telangana government, the kind of initiative you have taken. What is your thought on this?
So we follow three models for PPP. First of all, if there is a startup which has a product or service relevant to the government, we procure it bilaterally from them. They don't have to participate in any bidding process. They don't have to participate in any RFP, but it has to be a homegrown startup, which means that the startup has to be registered in an incubator in Hyderabad or in the state of Telangana for that matter. So for all the homegrown startups, this is the promise, this is the assurance that we have given to them in our startup policy. So that is number one. The second kind of PPP project, so for example, let us say, as I said, we developed the Security Operations Center. We are developing the critical information infrastructure. We may develop some other kind of infrastructure components, which are big ticket items, where definitely there is a RFP process, which I'm sure all of you would be familiar. So as and when these RFPs are announced, you're free to participate. But the third variety of PPP, so as I said, these are with institutions. As I said, we have partnered with the Hague Security Delta, and we are giving them some assignments. They are doing some kind of an audit of all the government, databases and the vulnerabilities which they face, and so on and so forth. They are doing a mapping of the entire ecosystem which exists in Hyderabad, and so on and so forth. So some of these are also done bilaterally. There is no, I mean, the commercials are kind of bilaterally negotiated. So three models: RFP model, an automatic model for startups, and an in-between model for institutions.
So I think that's all, sir. Thank you for joining us. We would have loved to have you in person, but thanks for joining us on a virtual keynote.
Thanks for giving me this opportunity. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we come to an end of the keynote session, and that also brings us to an end of our today's discussions.